Hello, my name's Sheehan, and today I'd like to talk about Tchaikovsky's Fifth Symphony in E minor. And I'd like to go through this brilliant symphony, exploring the themes and how the themes are structured, how a great symphony like this is stitched together by a master composer such as Tchaikovsky. And I do these videos because that's how I love listening to classical music. I really love to know where I am in the piece. I love following the structure, the form, as I listen to it in the concert hall or at home. So if this is your kind of thing, please click like and subscribe. Now, Tchaikovsky in 1888 was a busy guy. He was conducting lots of his own works. He was on his first European tour at the beginning of that year. And although his Fourth Symphony was getting on to 10 years previously, he was busy composing lots of other music, including his Manfred Symphony. After his European tour, he felt moved to begin his next symphony, although he was exhausted and it took him a while to get really going with it. But eventually, as we can see through his correspondence to his brother Modest and his benefactress Nadezhda von Meck, he was generally very pleased with how it was going, although Tchaikovsky, being Tchaikovsky, did have his moments of doubt. He writes to von Meck on June the 22nd of 1888, "It is difficult to say at the moment how my symphony has turned out compared to the previous ones, and especially compared with ours, the fourth. It doesn't seem to have the old lightness and constant flow of material. As I remember it, I used not to be so exhausted at the end of a day. Now I am so tired each night that I am not even able to read." But later on, in August that year, he writes, "Now that the symphony is nearing completion, I am more objective in my attitude towards it than I was in the heat of composition, and I can say that, heaven be praised, it isn't inferior to the earlier ones. The fact that I feel this to be so gives me great delight." When the symphony was eventually premiered in Moscow, it was a huge success. The audience loved it. Tchaikovsky came on for many ovations, and he must have been absolutely delighted with its reception. However, his old enemies in the music press, including fellow composers such as César Cui, felt that they wanted to pull him down, and they were very critical of the work, which of course affected the ever-sensitive Tchaikovsky. However, he did perform it again, he conducted it again, and it proved to be a success in Germany. And although it didn't really take on for the rest of his lifetime, over the course of the late 19th century into the 20th century, it became one of his most beloved works. And indeed today it rivals the popularity of the symphonies around it, the fourth and indeed the sixth. It is a great work filled with wonderfully expressive and melodic ideas, as you'd expect from Tchaikovsky. So the symphony is in 4 movements, and although there isn't a specific programme, like the Manfred Symphony for instance, which came before this, there is a motto theme which recurs throughout each of the 4 movements, which does suggest some narrative thrust. The first movement, which is in sonata form, begins with this motto in the introduction, and you can follow the form of each of the movements in the description below with the bar numbers. So here's the motto theme. The symphony's in E minor, and we begin with this. It's the melody of struggle, of resignation, a weary resignation. Da, 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 da. There's a kind of heaviness there. After the introduction, we come to the first subject. Firmly in E minor. Etc. Donald Tovey, in his analysis of this symphony, makes the point that you kind of expect it to be, but it's not that it's, which gives it more of a plagal identity rather than a perfect identity. Instead of, it's more like. We then come to a thrilling climax in this first subject group, where we hear a new idea as well, it's a rhythmic idea. Dum da dum. Those cross rhythms is just so exciting. You then have a brief transition idea. And then we come to the second subject, which is in D major initially. There's a couple of ideas in this group, and the first one has this fanfare quality to it. And then we have the more lyrical second idea in the second subject group. Very beautiful. Very beautiful music. Like the first subject group, it builds to a climax before we have a Codetta based on that fanfare idea. The development's really exciting, and it combines the first subject. We also have hints of the dum bum 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 bum, for that fanfare idea from the second subject, as well as the transition idea. Da, 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 see if you can hear those ideas. I love those swelling chords. Kind of creates a sobering effect in this frenetic, highly wrought music. We have that dum da dum, dum dum dum, and then we come back to the recapitulation, pianissimo on the bassoons. Etc. We have that wonderful climax again in the first subject group before we hit the transition theme, and then the second subject group with the fanfares. And then we get that achingly beautiful tune, firmly in E major this time, the tonic. Etc. We have the Codetta, again based on the second subject fanfare idea, before we reach an exciting coda based on the first subject, before the music just dies down in this eerie gloom. We're left with just a bare chord on the lower strings, timpani and bassoons. The second movement, the slow movement, is really based on two ideas. We have an introduction which prepares us for the first beautiful melody in this movement. Etc. Really amazingly beautiful tune, which of course Tchaikovsky was wonderful at. In this A section there's another tune as well, which is very beautiful, and this really comes back with immense power later on. so beautiful, so beautiful. And just the kind of music just gets you right in the heart every time. So there's a contrasting B section. Now, before we get back to the reprise of the A section in this ternary form movement, we have this dramatic, unexpected and sudden interjection of the motto theme, which we haven't heard since the beginning of the first movement. This time 3 Fs, forte fortissimo, and this really packs a punch here. Any mood of love and tenderness is interrupted by this fate motif. In the reprise to the A section we have the glorious horn melody, again this time heard on the strings and oboe, and then the overwhelmingly joyful return to that aching melody as well, the second idea. You just don't want it to stop, do you? But it seems love will not have the final say at this point in the symphony, because we're once again brought crashing down to earth with the motto theme hammering out. Before we have a gentle coda based on the second of the A melodies. The third movement is a delightful waltz, again in ternary form, and there's a couple of melodies in the A section. We have this. Etc. That's typical Tchaikovsky, isn't it? Ballet music. And then we have an extension of that idea in the winds. Before we have a return to the main waltz idea. The trio, the B section, is this chattering idea in semiquavers, F sharp minor, relative minor of A major. When the A section returns, we have something of that scurrying semiquaver feel from the B section remaining. Now you're probably asking yourself, well, where is the motto theme? We've heard it in the first movement, we've heard it a couple of times in the second movement. Where is it in the third movement, in this waltz? Well, we hear it right at the end of the movement in the coda, in the clarinets and bassoons. So listen out for that. The finale again is in sonata form like the first movement, and again like the first movement with an introduction. And here we hear the motto again. This time it sounds a lot grander, a lot more triumphant in E major. In this introduction we also hear a new chord theme as well. It's like a brass chorale. So has fate somehow been defeated here? Has this motto theme been transmogrified into something more hopeful? Something more joyous? Well, the struggle isn't over yet, because we get to the first subject and we go back into E minor with this dramatic idea. Seems there's still some battling to be done. We have another idea in the first subject group, which is rather lovely. Before we have a third idea. We have a brief transition before we move to the second subject. Etc. And the motto theme comes back at the end of the second subject group. There's a Codetta based on the first subject before we move into the development, which is based both on the first and second subjects in this movement. And there's a wonderful moment of calm in this development, where things seem to just come to an oasis-like pause. As this exciting development comes to a close with this oddly serene music, we come to the recapitulation. And here Tchaikovsky begins this recapitulation with the first subject with actually a different tune. Then we go back to the normal first subject. We hear everything how we'd expect in a sonata form movement. The first subject, the transition, the second subject. We hear a Codetta, molto vivace, before we come to the Coda, and the Coda is where we hear the motto theme transformed into its most joyous, hopeful and glorious incarnation as this swinging march. Now Tchaikovsky wasn't entirely convinced by this. It has to be said, he was always fluctuating in his opinions about his own work, and he felt the ending was perhaps a little bit naff. Well, some people agree with him. I love it. I think it's a great way to end this glorious and life-affirming symphony. It seems at the end of this work at least, Tchaikovsky's demons are put to bed. Thanks for watching this video. If this is your kind of thing, please click like and subscribe. And also, if you're a fan of these videos, consider donating to my PayPal. The link is in the description below. And if you'd like me to look at any work in particular in the future, please put them in the comments and I will get round to them sooner or later. All the best. Thank you. Bye.